Hello, this is First Fire and Non-Assault Move. Welcome back to the 41st video in the War in the East series. Let's get a situation report. It is the second week of December. I was going to combine two turns into one video, but I was excited what happened this turn. So we're going to do a quick summary of turn 78, and then we'll execute the Soviets' turn, and then I will conduct turn 79, and then execute the Soviets' turn, and that will be the entirety of this video. So let's quickly look through the army groups and get a situation report here. Tallinn is still holding out. We just don't have the combat power to remove the forces defending Tallinn because the bulk of our troops were conducting an encirclement. We did destroy we did destroy 4 formations of the Soviets this turn. Let's get a quick look at losses first, before I forget, because I seem to forget that sometime. A lot of attacks, so our losses are up there pretty high. I don't like that, but it was worth it. It was very much worth it, and we'll find that. You'll see in a little bit what I'm talking about, and our panzer divisions were leading the way, fully engaged during this week of the offensive, the continuing German mini winter offensive. It's not so mini anymore. It's kind of major. So losses here and our AFEs. Look at that, 147 Soviet losses already, and that's part of the destruction of the Soviets in this pocket and some other attacks where we did we were able to rout several Soviet formations again this turn. All right, so finishing off the pocket here, pushing up to the Gulf of Finland. I am trying to snare the Soviets, lure them in where we have our understrength. Well, that's 9,000. Okay, these aren't them. Anyways, these infantry divisions have been at it since the snow started, so they're a little depleted, exhausted, so they're not at their greatest combat power. So we're luring the Soviets in. Meanwhile, staging here a little to the south, and if the Soviets overextend, we will push through, reach the Gulf of Finland, and get another little encirclement of the Soviet forces here, which really is going to strip them of most, well, not most, but a significant amount of their forces will be removed from the Leningrad front for us to pursue future operations and threaten Leningrad. So that's what's happening there. Moving a little further south, north of Pskov, didn't make that many attacks, just a handful, beating up on some already mauled divisions. Don't expect much more progress to happen here until the pressure mounts on the Soviets in this sector to the north of them, where that will probably be, I estimate, another 2 to 3 weeks before we can clean this up, get into position, and maybe conduct that encirclement here, which would take another couple turns. So any shift and success in this sector isn't anticipated for probably about a month at least. So we're just holding in place right now. And should the Soviets move back with these depleted divisions, we'll just conduct some local attacks. So further south of Pskov, no change, just digging in, trying to find some ground that's not frozen solid. That's highly unlikely because we're at freeze level 10 across all 3 Soviet zones. Consolidating the sector around Veliky Luki, where we took the town a couple weeks ago. Did we attack? Don't remember if we bothered to. Yeah, we did. Again, pushing back Soviets, where we had steadily beat upon the divisions that were in front of us and the corps in front of us. So, again, not letting them develop strong fort levels in front of us, keeping them on the back foot and not getting comfortable there. South of Veliky Luki, this bend that's always been there, it's probably going to remain for a while. Maybe once we get some further successes up here, it will straighten the line out and this bend will go away. It's just an annoyance. tying up forces, but the Soviets are dormant here as well, so that's all right. They do have a little bit of a concentration. I expect a couple local attacks, but now that we're digging in, we'll probably be able to hold out instead of having to withdraw. We pulled back. We were up adjacent to the Soviets in a few places. No need to do that and give the Soviets advantageous uh, combat resolutions on us. So just pull back, establishing a nice solid line, straight line here. And reinforcements have arrived. We railed in these Luftwaffe field divisions that are going to contribute, just stiffen, provide a little more strength in this sector, make me feel more comfortable. So south of Smolensk, more of the same. We stop progress really pushing north of Orel. We do have this little bit of a bulge here, and we didn't really attack much in front of Orel at all, actually, because Soviets have started to defend in strength here with the forces that had built up over time past month and a half. And it's been a back and forth. They attack and we threaten the flanks. We pulled back 14th Panzer Corps. They weren't going to do any further progress, and we don't have any supporting elements to the south to get a pincer movement. It would all have to be on 14th Panzer's shoulders and the supporting infantry, and that really wasn't in the cards. So right now, resting, refitting, getting reorganized, and still in striking distance of Orel. Down by Kursk, making progress, inching forward, made a few attacks. There are some airdrops, striking distance of Kursk as well. And oh, that's the 14th. Sorry. You are not the 14th. You were. I saw this regiment, which was part of the 14th, but no longer. So now the 14th is here. We pulled back. We thought about pushing further south and east, but I didn't feel we were going to accomplish anything. Similar to what I was just saying, we have forces to the north and lesser forces to the south. Not able to really to get an encirclement and form a pocket on the Soviets, so we're not going to bother doing that. So 14th, here's the 14th. They are resting and refitting, getting some fuel. They fought hard, and there's still a breach here. Still a breach the Soviets are going to have to patch. They don't know we're not going to push through here, so they're going to have to pull forces out and block this gap in their line. And Sumy consolidating, holding Sumy. They are not taking Sumy back, still threatening to the north, and pushing back the Soviets where they're a little light in forces so that they don't develop those fort levels here, and this could be a focus for future operations. Kharkov is firmly in hand. No threat from the Soviets. Very thin brown line here. Moving south of Kharkov all the way down to really where we had our axis of advance. Just nice clean line. Nice organized infantry corps holding the line and still attacking here and there just to disrupt the Soviets. Another little gap here, a threat. Soviets will have to think about that. Moving further south. Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a moment and see what we were able to do. So the last turn, we had halted our panzers to catch a breath, regain some fuel, get organized, and kind of shift as many supporting infantry divisions as we could to help out the panzers in any further attacks. That was last week. So getting a little bit of a respite, refueling, getting organized into attack positions. And so let's just take a look so you can see. We sprung into action all the way up here to the north, and a series of attacks coordinated with all three Panzer Corps that are involved. I think there's four in here actually. All making their way south, where wasn't sure we are going to make it, but we had a little foresight thinking about if the Soviets were a little blasé about not pulling back and attacking like Slovakian divisions and holding on Zaporozhye when really the writing's on the wall for them. We did push over the 3rd Panzer Corps, along with the bulk of 11th Army is now over the Dnieper and pushing back the Soviets. Really strong combat power here for us, and not so much for the Soviets. So the link up with 3rd Panzer Corps and 24th Panzer Corps, yes, commanded by in Großdeutschland, prestigious link up here. Now we have another pocket around Zaporozhye, similar to what we managed with Dnepropetrovsk. So still haven't taken Dnepropetrovsk. It's taking forever to move these infantry divisions around to get into attack positions on Dnepropetrovsk. We tried again. They didn't budge. Soviets didn't budge. They're dug in there. They're going to fight fanatically to the last bullet, I'm expecting. But it will be ours. Dnepropetrovsk will be ours. Maybe not next turn or the next, but in the next couple of weeks, we'll secure Dnepropetrovsk. Similarly, next turn, we're going to start compressing this pocket and destroying a nice batch of Soviet forces. To include, oh, that was up there. To include, here is what I was meant to say. The Soviets left forces to the west of the Dnieper here just to keep their own bridgehead across the Dnieper. Maybe they are thinking for their own future operations, but in doing so, they isolated another cavalry corps, another tank corps, and another mechanized corps. So we'll throw those into the Soviet forces that will be destroyed off their order of battle. And a late year success for the Germans. We are attacking, unrelenting in the blizzard weather. Soviets are not liking it, and if we look a little further south, let's just talk about the Romanians, still keeping the pressure on the Soviets everywhere we can, everywhere we can. So look, to say the Dnieper front of the Soviets is in disarray, I think is an understatement. This stragglers and scraps, mauled divisions, routed divisions, headquarters and airfields are all that's in front of us. The bulk of 3 Panzer Corps that may be tied up a little bit with the destruction, but 11th Army will pull around in a little bit to contribute to the destruction of the Soviets in this pocket. But look at that. The Sea of Azov is not really too far away when you think about it, and the strength of the Soviet forces in front of us. These should be shrugged aside, but it is tougher going, absolutely tougher going in the blizzard. Hard to attack, hard to move through the snow, through the howling winds and snowfall, but we've managed to accomplish this. And 11th Army, oh boy, once they shake out and get online, they're going to be devastating. Very strong infantry corps as part of 11th Army, and still poised. We brought up the 39th Panzer Corps. It just has 2 motorized divisions to contribute to this breakout, which we're soon to be breakout. This massive bridgehead that we have now, we're going to push them over. And then where are we going to put the 36th Panzer Corps? I don't know. They're refitting still. Might be overkill, because that's 4, 5, 6, 7. That would be 7 Panzer Corps in operation here. I think I'm going to... Well, I'm not going to take them away from Army Group South. We're going to leave them there, build up strength, rest and refit, maybe exchange some equipment, getting some new PZ-4 F2s, up armored Stugs, and 1942, maybe even a Tiger. Well, Tigers they're hitting a few. Starting to come into the picture. 1942. All right. Very excited. So I wanted to show this, definitely capture, so you saw the makings of what happened. So like if I had executed the next turn, you'd be like, where's all the Soviet, how come you have Zaporozhye? Well, this is why. Very excited. A lot of concerns for the Soviet all along the front, keeping the pressure on all the way up. And this Army Group North is kind of a have your cake and eat it too. This is kind of a bonus. I wasn't really expecting this to happen based on the stalemate that was here in this sector for so long. But we continue to plus up our forces. We did not relent when our attack towards Talonin was kind of stalling, and we had that odd like slice in their front with forces on our left and right flanks. We stuck to it, and we took care of our left flank and got rid of those Soviets and reached the Black Sea, right? Baltic Sea, my apologies. And then finally tipped the scales, and now Soviets may want to do something about that, and I hope they try. I hope they move in here and leave just a few of their forces. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they'll just bulk up here, and that's all right. That's all right. We need to take Tallinn, clean this up, and get poised for future ops. We are ready to hit next turn. Let's do it. Oh, always second thoughts. Yep. Railroad repair, partisans. Okay. Soviets do attack in the blizzard, more so than other times. So I expect local attacks here and there. They still have the 9 to 12 divisions where they can go 3 high in hexes and gang up on singular divisions of our own. I made sure the outer perimeter of the pocket, the Zaporozhye pocket, is pretty strong, so I don't think they will be able to break through there. Don't know if they're going to cut their losses and realize that if I reach the Sea of Azov and then the Crimea, they could have even further Soviet, further forces encircled. And we have one little infantry corps there, one less to worry about. That will surrender also. Yeah, kind of sacrificial regiment. I just kind of leave it out there to distract the Soviets. Still attacking out of Tallinn. Vicious defense. We should have our own fort levels going here. No, we don't have a fort level there. Held. Very good. Oh well. That's a bummer. 2 deliberate attacks out of Tallinn. Retreating. I don't see how they're supplied enough to attack. Since I don't anticipating attacking further out of Veliky Luki right now, I may extract one division. Protect the flanks a little more. Suffice to say, 94 losses to 1,400. Nice. Suffice to say, the 1942 winter is not going as well as the 1941 winter did for the Soviets. They don't like us that close to Kursk, do they? You are not saving that corps. We are going to bring at least 1 to 2 Panzer Corps back into Army Group Center's area of operations, because we really have stripped them of all Panzer Corps right now. Except for that one that's on the rails. But it's further south as well. Well, after these vicious, exhausting attacks the Germans are conducting during the blizzard months, we're probably going to welcome some mud in 1943 to rest and refit, get some better equipment into our TOE. Most certainly it's going to be blizzard conditions again, which we are managing quite nicely. 21,000 about average, 53 tanks lost, 200 about average. Climbing, losses are climbing for the Soviets. Wanted to get to that 10 million mark. Definitely want to have a much greater pace, them getting to 10 million, than our losses getting too much worse. All right, so we will go about our moves and attacks for turn 79, the third week of December. Is it all blizzard for us? Blizzard, blizzard, blizzard. Yep, to be expected, and to be expected all throughout January and February. But the Germans are owning this winter. That is for sure. Oh, not what I expected them to do. Darn it, I hope they had moved this way. Well, still destroyed 2 tank brigades. Just the pointlessness of moving them there. Not recognizing they are woefully outmatched. Not accomplishing anything. I wanted to get to the Pipus to the east here and isolate these formations of the Soviets. But they're pretty strong here, and we don't have the combat power to do that right now. Any other shenanigans where they're trying to push through gaps? Don't see such. Alright, so definitely focus is going to be on the reduction of this pocket. Where do they try to go? No, there's got to be forces there. Can't possibly have vacated Zaporozhye. If you're going to hold out, you might as well hold out in the city, because look at Talinin and Dnepropetrovsk. That's tying up German forces. Don't concede the city. And they threw in some more forces in front of this little breach in their lines, and also here. Yeah, they took everything they could, I imagine, from reserves, incoming reinforcements, to plug this up. So in doing so, look at how thin these lines are for the Soviets now. Gotta start thinking about conducting some local attacks, just to maybe rout 1 or 2 of these, and that really has an effect on Soviet density, and it creates those gaps, fragmentation of their front. So we're going to look at that. All right, I'm going to go about moves and attacks, and I'll be back. All right, back from moves and attacks. A lot has happened. Significant successes for the Germans, and the Soviets. Stavka has to be very concerned about what is transpiring right now, at the closing of 1942, during the dead of winter, blizzards all around, all across the front, the Germans attacking, unrelenting, and let's see what has happened. All right, starting with Army Group North situation report. We're looking at it right now. We wanted to have the Soviets bait. We wanted to bait the Soviets, have them come in, and then cut off their forces right around in this area. Instead, we conducted several attacks, pushed the Soviets back, routed at least one of their formations, and now we've reached the Gulf of Finland to the east of really this Tallinn front, we will call it. All the forces that had been defending in this area, defending Tallinn as they retreated back, we are able to get behind them, to the east of them, and there is nothing to the east coming out of Leningrad to be seen to threaten another significant encirclement of the Soviets. Significant, maybe not in the amount of Soviet forces, but not something to sneeze at. There's at least 10 formations here. 3, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, over 10 formations here, including these 2 brigades. And eventually we'll get 4 more. So close to 15, 16, in that ballpark of Soviet formations that are going to be destroyed outright, encircled off the order of battle, surrendering, adding to their loss count. And it really has opened up the gates to Leningrad. The Soviets only have these forces left on their Leningrad front, let's call it. They will have to quickly recover, pull back, movements restricted as well for the Soviets in these blizzard conditions. How will they react and recover to this? So an amazing result, I think, for the Germans in this area right now, and it's really setting up future planning for what are we going to do about Leningrad. Leningrad's in the realm of possibility right now. With all these Soviet forces out of the picture, they're going to have to pull forces from somewhere. And over the course of 1942, we have taken a significant toll on their forces. We're going to get a count when it turns to 1943 of just how many forces we destroyed in 1942. And it's staggering. It's staggering. All right, moving down, no attacks further here from Pskov all the way down to Veliky Luki. We achieved another gap, routed some Soviets, pushed back some weaker forces of theirs. Pretty mauled up right now, and we're strong. We have some strong infantry divisions pushing irresistibly against the Soviets, and there's another gap in their line. And that is the story from the past 2 weeks of action. Rupture after rupture in the Soviets' lines. All right, very excited about this. Veliky Luki down to Smolensk. We saw last turn that they did some localized attacks. We just kind of moved back into position, have a nice solid line, getting some fort levels of our own. Look at those defensive factors. Very impressive with no threat whatsoever coming from the Soviets. This line still a little thin, but we have now inserted those reinforcements to thicken our defense in this sector. From Smolensk down to Bryansk, it's a little thin, but likewise, the Soviets don't have the combat power. No threat from any Soviet winter offensive in this sector, just localized attack, maybe forcing 1Z, 2Z divisions of our own to withdraw, and that is just fine. We'll deal with that. We didn't want to pull back to shorten this line. We want this salient because this is poisoning us for future operations to either break out somewhere along this sector should this be the focal point of a 1943 offensive. Soviets still are pretty strong, thicker in their defense and troop count from Orel up to Bryansk. This sector here where they had those forces left over, and they're doing some local attacks. Just one there and one there, really. They didn't mount much of anything in this sector. So moving further south, down around Kursk, we did pull back from Kursk. A little light on combat power here, and the Soviets had that build-up, which they still have superior combat power here. They're going to make those 1Z, 2Z attacks, but don't want to give too much ground. And we have part of the 14th resting and refitting on the rail lines and just holding the line here with 2 motorized divisions just to plug a place in the front. This could be a nice little sector to break out of and get an encirclement of the Soviets, because we have our salient maintained around Kharkov, and the Soviets have lessened their own pressure in this sector. It was a back and forth. We were threatening the flanks as the Soviets pushed kind of west, and they finally did concede Sumy. So we do have a little salient developed for potential encirclement. No threat at all on Kharkov. Very thin Soviet line facing off from Kharkov all the way down, really, to almost Dnepropetrovsk. This is what the front looks like. Here is another little gap, routed. Nice 20-mile gap. Soviet lines, just airfields presented. They're going to have to do something about this, because now we're going to put the pressure on these weaker Soviet formations, division, and gang up on some of these corps to make more trouble for the Soviets rupturing this part of the front as well. Let's look at the big news. All right, finally have 3 of our infantry corps. We have the forces now in place to finally reduce Dnepropetrovsk. Hopefully this next turn we will be able to take Dnepropetrovsk, but still pretty strong. 3 cavalry corps. They are making a very stubborn defense for us, but we haven't really attacked in force against Dnepropetrovsk. This coming turn, they will face the first true test on defending Dnepropetrovsk for the Soviets. All right, so we pushed back the Soviets, reestablished a front, and now Zaporozhye is encircled. I think we tried to attack. No, we didn't try to attack. Just multiple attacks. Very, very pleased that we destroyed all the Soviet formations in this sector, in this encirclement, squeezing them down just to have Zaporozhye resisting now. And here is really something to be very excited about for the Germans. Overall, from Dnepropetrovsk to the very southernmost point of the Soviets' front, Nikolaev, where the Romanians are, their front is shattered. They bulked up as much as they could to prevent any further German progress to the east right here, where they're pretty strong, but they have nothing to counter the mighty 3rd Panzer Division, along with, who else did we push over? The 39th. And I don't know if I'll commit this Panzer Corps. I think I'm gonna leave them there for now still, because I wanted to rail them to this point and exploit and make a puncture in their front, threatening Stalino even in December. However, we didn't have a contiguous rail line to that point, so I just left them there last turn. But look at 11th Army all the way over the Dnieper, well past, pushing south, and the Sea of Azov is, boy, the coast is there, and we slammed the door shut on the Soviets. Very, very likely that we can achieve that. Do we want to go east and get across this river wholly? I think at least we'll have a bridgehead here to conduct an offensive to the south towards Stalino along the coastal region. Do we commit the 3rd Panzer to the land bridge into the Crimea to encircle these forces? I don't know if it's worth it. I know it's pretty... Are we overconfident at this point, the way 1942 is ending up? Very, very impressed with what we were able to accomplish, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. This could be, as the next weeks progress, a irrecoverable position for the Soviets as we move into 1943. factor in all the forces we've just destroyed and the forces that are going to be destroyed up in Army Group North's area of operations, it's looking very promising for the Germans right now. I don't want to jinx myself, but let's be confident, and I am pretty confident, that we can really continue to devastate the Soviets all the way up until Mud. Don't think they have the forces available or in position to have an answer for where we're going to attack repeatedly over the next couple of weeks. So choice is reach the Sea of Azov, get a bridgehead. Maybe we'll do both. Get a solid bridgehead over here, setting up some staging areas for 3rd Panzer and 39th, and maybe actually bring the who do we have here? The 36th Panzer Corps. Get them over, and they're nice and fresh. Get them staged here potentially. But that is a decision to make. The Romanians continue to press and push the Soviets back here and there. Just these two places. So overall, really, really excited and happy what we were able to accomplish in 17th of December, turned 79. In some sectors, we're outpacing our railheads, so we have to adjust that. I did pull back a couple of our manually controlled railroad repair engineers to take care of that and start repairing some railroads to get the railheads closer to our attacking troops. And overall, I believe we have a pretty healthy supply network. Some breaks here and there, which we do have a couple of our manually controlled. I think it's an even split. I think we have 2 back in the backfield as a quick reaction to repair railroads, and then about 3 are up against the front, trying to get railheads as close to our forces at the front as possible. So if we take a look, zoomed out, what the front looks like now, is really, that's telling if you look there. Just a bunch of encircled Soviets, nothing in the way towards Leningrad, thin Soviet forces really throughout the front, with the exception of a few isolated concentrations of their own forces. And looking even further south, their front east of the Dnieper has been completely ruptured and dissolved with this concentration as well. Looking at it here, could push and maybe look at an encirclement of these forces. How would that look like? Oh, that's very achievable, I think. Moving some repositioning. Once we reduce Dnepropetrovsk and Zaporozhye, it frees up about 4 of our infantry corps, so we'll get them in line, relieve them in place with these Panzer Corps, and I don't think the Soviets are going to reposition these forces, so these could be the next target, these forces here, for an encirclement. Attacking from the north, where the Soviets are very thin, and also nothing really to the south, where 3rd Panzer could go east. I think we'll be able to accomplish both, reaching the Sea of Azov and getting a nice bridgehead here. So that's what we'll do over the next turn. Over next week, which would be turn 80. But I believe we are ready to hit next turn. All right, let's do it. Next turn. What can the Soviets do about what's happening in Army Group North and also to the far south towards 3rd Panzer and 11th Army? Regiment. I think for the past 3 turns, the Soviets intend just to attack our regiment. Hungarians holding out. I like it. Are they gonna break out? They can. I'll gladly let them leave Talon. Yeah, we have our forces that were finishing up the Soviets. But a little to the south. They're taking a little while to get to Talon, so it won't be reduced this turn. Maybe in 2 weeks from now. Where they can get those 3 hexes, and they will do so, especially in the blizzard. Managed to hold there. Well, they're following it up. That's good. It's good for them. I mean, they've made some very questionable moves, going through gaps and having 3 corps at a time slaughtered, forced to surrender. It's going to be this back and forth for the next couple of months along what I would call the quiet sectors of the front. Maybe by February we could get a Panzer Corps or 2 around Kharkov and cut off that same there. They attacked over there. Good result. Oh, there they go again. You see those 2 Panzer tank corps they just pushed up? Well, you know, trying to relieve Zaporozhye there, but they're not. Do they not have the intel and the forces we have available in front of them? I guess they don't mind giving the ground here in this region. These are just kind of throwaway formations, and they're not too concerned if we reach the Crimea. It's really not hurting them strategically. It's just shortening our lines, which we don't mind at all if they do that. Getting to the Crimea, maybe. I'm thinking about Stalino, but getting to the Crimea would be something, another box to check. It's been lingering there. We really need to get to the Crimea and shorten our lines there. So more than likely 11th Army and 3rd Panzer will attack south and just get a bridgehead over that river to the east. Yeah, they attacked in strength here and there, caused some losses to us. Oh, this looks about standard. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Show you the losses from my last turn. Doggone it. Because with the destruction of the forces in Zaporozhye pocket, I believe it was over 200, close to 300,000 across the whole turn. So yeah, you can see right there, it really reached almost 9 million now. What does it look like? Did they somehow materialize? Well, a handful of these headquarters, they have pushed a tank formation as a stop-back gap measure, but these forces are going to be destroyed. That is amazing. All right. No real change anywhere else. Pushed back. It's hard to defend in swamps. You can't really dig in. I may get on some solid ground here and just pull back a little bit just to repeat and maul some of their formations as they come adjacent. And then further south, nothing to take note of, or no concerns. No concerns. Pretty thin here. And what did the Soviets do? They're giving up this terrain. Well, push adjacent. Maybe threaten a couple corps of theirs there. And no real change here. Definitely continue attack and threaten this part of the front of the Soviets in preparation for operations towards Stalino. And here's what I was talking about. Another 2-tank corps. What are they doing? That was just pointless. Pointless. And did they they probably shuffled some of their forces just to get some blockers here, but we're only 30 miles from the Sea of Azov, and we have all of 11th Army and 3rd Panzer and 39th Panzer, so they're not in too terrible a shape, even with supply lines going over the Dnieper without a rail line really to speak of. We did some airdrops, so they are not too badly supplied, so we will reach the Sea of Azov and then threaten Soviet forces here. Reach these hexes where the Soviets would be able to escape. And hopefully, next turn, have these 2 cities finally. So, with the 3rd week of December, the Germans will continue their winter offensive as the year turns to 1943, having all of January and February. Will it be at this furious pace for the next 2 months as mud season will arrive sometime in March, April? Maybe, maybe not, but there's definitely opportunity to cause significant more damage to the Soviets in particular areas of their front. All right, we're going to end the video here. I hope you enjoyed watching. This is First Fire, non-assault move out.